Howdy, everybody. My name's Colter Fleming. I'd like to welcome you all back to our spotlight call. Today, we're going to be talking about something really special, just a beautiful new property, and we're going to be flipping the script a little bit. Joseph is going to be acting as both host and guest. So I'm thrilled to take you all down to Mexico, but I want you to suspend your imagination of what you believe about Mexico just for the next couple minutes while you're listening to this, because as I've heard from Joseph, and you're going to hear from our guest today, the place that we're taking you is unlike anything you've ever seen before. So let me just introduce myself briefly here. My name's Colter Fleming. I'm your strategic account manager based in Orange County, and looking forward to talking today about a really special place in Mexico. So thank you. Let me kick it over to my friend and colleague, Joseph Barney.
Thanks, Colter. Hi, everyone. My name's Joseph. I'm the strategic account manager for Los Angeles, San Francisco Bay Area, and Hawaii, and basically everything in between that along the coast. So thank you so much for joining us today. As Colter mentioned, I was very lucky enough to be able to visit Mandarina a few months ago, and I'm really excited to share my photos with everyone today and share this incredible property. But first, I want to introduce our two wonderful guests here. We have Jennifer Guevara, who is the Director of Sales, Leisure Sales for the Americas, and Samantha Spurgeon, who is the Director of Sales, Marketing, and Communications for One&Only Mandarina.
Hi, everybody.
Hi. Thank you so much, Joseph. As you mentioned, I'm Jennifer Guevara. I am in the Global Sales Office for Kerzner International. With that, underneath that, we do have our ultra luxury brand, One&Only Resorts, which we're going to be speaking about one very special property today. I'm based in Dallas, Texas, and I oversee the region for the West Coast, Southwest, and then West Coast of Canada as well. I've been in the industry for more than 20 years and worked for various brands from Rosewood to Viceroy Hotel Group. And now with Kerzner International in the Global Sales Office for 5+ years. And it's an exciting time for us as we grow the collection, adding to our second property in Mexico. And there's more news coming on the horizon that I want you to kind of keep an eye on this space as we expand into Europe, and then our first property in the United States. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Samantha.
Hi, excuse me. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much, Colter and Joseph, for inviting us today. And we're thrilled to be a part of this special podcast. So I'm Sam Spurgeon. I'm the Director of Sales, Marketing, Communications for the beautiful One&Only Mandarina. Like Jennifer, I've been in the business way too many years to count across various different brands. And as you can probably tell from my accent, not originally from the United States, but moved to the US over 20 years ago. And have lived in Hawaii for many years, French Polynesia, and so have a very good background, shall I say, of beautiful luxury resorts, and have tried, where possible, to stick to warm, sunny destinations. Obviously, Mandarina being no exception. So I joined Kerzner as part of the pre-opening team just about 1.5 years ago now. Time flies. And back in November this year, we opened the second resort for Kerzner for One&Only in Mexico. The One&Only Mandarina property, and obviously we're going to delve a little bit deeper into this, but this is such a special property for the company. It is just the most magnificent hotel. It does come, there's quite a bit of history to the development of the land. And for those of you that don't know, it does sit on the Riviera Nayarit, which is a fairly sort of new part of Mexico, which is currently being developed. It's touted as the last remaining coastal rainforest in Mexico, and sits just about 1 hour and 10 minutes north of Puerto Vallarta Airport. It's just such a stunning area. The history of this was our owning company, and when they actually discovered this land, which is probably close to 10 years ago now, actually took them 10 years to purchase the land from around 55 different owners in Mexico and around the US. Their dream was to build this luxury resort destination, which will eventually develop in time. But they actually purchased this land, as I mentioned, over 10 years ago, slowly and surely, with their dream of building their first luxury resort, of which we're delighted. Obviously, they chose One&Only as their management company. And so back in November, we opened the doors to this ultra luxury resort. which sits on the most amazing cliffside and literally in a jungle sort of arena. And I'm not going to spoil too much, because the purpose of this pool is Joseph was actually in the property just a few weeks back, and he's going to share from his perception of the resort. So I'm not going to spoil too much. And on that note, Joseph, I'm going to hand over to you.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Jennifer. Let me just share my screen here so I can show you guys all my fun photos. So I'm going to try to expand my vocabulary today, because I feel like whenever I talk about Mandarina, I always just use the word magical, because that's kind of the first word that comes to mind when I talk about this place, because it's so unique and so different feeling. I think a lot of us in the industry have probably been to Mexico many times, especially those of us who live in the southern US, and it's very close and accessible, especially for Californians and Arizonans and Texans. Mandarina is such a unique experience. Being in this Riviera Nayarit, where even though you're just an hour from Puerto Vallarta Airport, soon to be even closer with the new highway that's opening, you feel like you're in a completely different world. It really feels more like you're in Costa Rica or even Southeast Asia. It really has such an exotic, faraway feel to it, even though, you know, for those of us coming from Southern California, you can have lunch at Mandarina and be back home by dinner time. So it's really incredible. First, I'm going to show you guys our treehouse that we stayed in, because I was just completely obsessed with this accommodation more than anyone I've ever stayed in my life. So I'm going to show you guys a quick video here. So this is just, you arrive by your little golf cart buggy that takes you from the front desk area to your tree house. And this is walking in here. One of the things I love, of course, travel like all of us, but I love architecture, design, and nature. So this resort, more than any place I've been in my entire life, really united those things that I most love in the world into one destination. And I just was absolutely in love with this room. Ignore the bed, it's a little messy because I had already slept in it and tried to throw it back together really quick to make a nice view. So Mandarina does a much better job of making the bed look nice than I did. But these rooms are just spectacular. You're on stilts above the jungle floor, kind of on a very steep hillside. So when you look over the edge here, you're elevated over the jungle with this incredible infinity plunge pool, this view out to the ocean. And what's incredible about it is you just don't see anything else around you. You don't see other rooms. It feels completely private. So you just feel like you're out there in the middle of pristine jungle, but then in this spectacular luxury accommodation. And just surrounded by glass. It feels like the rooms were literally just dropped from the sky and landed in the jungle. You have this feeling that none of the vegetation was disturbed when they built these rooms. And especially being that this is a new resort, I just couldn't get over the fact that everything felt like it had been there forever, because it looked like all the vegetation and everything was still completely undisturbed and pristine. You know, walking through this beautiful, huge shower, you have this outdoor bathtub that looks over the hillside here. I just wish I could have stayed in this for a month and not just because it was just, this is like my dream house. I want to just live in the forest in a house that looks like this. You have tons of storage, and then the bathroom is just amazing. I love that the backdrop of all the vegetation is almost like a natural wallpaper behind your vanities. You have this little day bed here that separates the bathroom and bedroom area, and you couldn't notice it there because the shade was closed, but there's a really beautiful skylight right over the day bed. You have the water closet, but just the design, and there's my boyfriend hiding from the camera because he didn't want to be in the just the design of everything is so gorgeous. I mean, I would just lay in the bed and be like, I love these curtains so much. And, you know, just everything about the room is just absolutely gorgeous and fits so perfectly into the environment that it's in.
Joseph, how much time did you spend in your private pool?
That I actually spent quite a bit of time in. In fact, I'm sad that I didn't spend more time in the two larger pools at the resort, but because we've been in quarantine for the past year, I felt better being shirtless in a private area where no one could see me. So I actually used the plunge pool quite a bit. I wasn't feeling beach ready on this trip after the year that we've all had. But it was just, the view was so spectacular. I just loved every time we'd come back to the room, I would take another photo of the view because it was always changing, depending on the clouds and the time of day. And just, from there on the left, you have like a shot of the view in the morning. And then on the far right, a shot of the view in the evening. It's just like the color of everything was always changing. And I just loved, it's just amazing to open to the curtains, laying in bed every morning and just look out and see that. So it was it's definitely one of those accommodations that you have to sometimes pry yourself away from because it's just so beautiful just being in your room itself.
And actually, you touch on a very important point, Joseph, with regards to the trees and everything else. When they built the property, every tree that they disturbed, they replanted. So conservation was such a big part of the property when they built it. So if you're standing on the beach, and I'm sure you saw this, and you're looking back at the resort, you really don't see the villas. It's really incorporated very, very well into the hillside. And that was a big part of the development team. So I'm glad you picked up on that.
Yeah, it really shows because, again, it was everything there is sparkling and brand new, but you don't have that feeling of everything was just planted or, I think we've all been to new resorts before where, just all the little plants are still tiny because everything was just planted. You really feel like they just dropped these buildings from the sky and nothing around them was touched. And exactly right, Sam. When you look back at the beach, or look back at the resort from the beach, you can barely see it. And it's just, you just see the jungle and the mountains and it's absolutely beautiful.
Joseph, kind of a funny question here. From your plunge pool, what are you looking out and down on? And like, how far down is it from there?
Correct me if I'm wrong, Sam and Jennifer, I think they're about 50 feet up, right?
40 feet, yeah, close. 40
Okay.
feet above the ground on stilts.
Yeah. And so you're looking at nothing but just completely untouched jungle in front of you. And then it's a gradual kind of slope down to the ocean. So you just have that perfect kind of framed view of the ocean with the jungle kind of going off in every direction around it. So it's really spectacular. And it's not just our room that has that beautiful view. I mean, the resort is really designed so that you have spectacular views from every room. I mean, we saw quite a few when we were there and everyone had a kind of unique and different view, especially because it's kind of shaped around a little bit of a U shape around the base. So you get to see the water from different angles from different rooms and they're all beautiful.
And it's worth mentioning that, the tree houses is one of the villa types. And then the other one is the cliff villa, which actually sits on the ground. It has the same beautiful views as Joseph showed you from his tree house, but they actually are built into the side of the cliff, so they don't sit on stilts. So very similar in design and style and decor, but just a slightly different feel, obviously, from being suspended above the trees on stilts to actually sitting in the side of a cliff. So slightly different perspective on the villas too.
Yeah. And so this is one of the public areas here. This is one of the two pools. And this is just adjacent to one of the gorgeous restaurants, Corral. And Sam, maybe if you want to talk a little bit more about the specific venue here.
Absolutely. So, this is probably my favorite spot in the entire resort. Corral Restaurant sits on the top southernmost point of the resort. So the view, as you can see from here, is absolutely spectacular. I think sunsets will take on a whole new meaning when you see them from this particular vantage point. Corral is actually our celebrity chef restaurant. So it's under the guidance of Enrique Olvera, who is very well known, one of the top chefs in Mexico, but also, as sure many of you know, he has a restaurant in New York and just recently opened in LA. So this is a spectacular Mexican cuisine. It still has a very relaxed, informal atmosphere. I mean, what you don't see from here is the other side of the pool is kind of like a sandy area. So really sort of toes in the sand, have your cocktail in the evening, watch the sunset. This pool is also an adults only pool. It's the only adults only pool that we have on property, and it's open during the day. So this is just a very, very special location in the hotel. It's, I think, probably one of my favorites. Certainly a great place to come and watch the sunset and enjoy some great Mexican food.
Yeah, this was one of the first places after we got checked into our room. This was the first place that we came when we arrived for sunset cocktails, and it is such a beautiful place to watch the sunset and kind of get a nice little view of the entire environs of the resort. You know, talking about the dining, that was another huge highlight for me of this trip, is just every meal that we had at the resort was absolutely spectacular. You know, and I've talked a lot over the past couple of days, us planning this, you know, that was one of the things I always mentioned, is just not just that it was great food, but it was the type of trip where there was several dishes I had that were so good that I still think about them on a very regular basis. Like, I wish I could get that exact thing someplace close to my house. I'm personally a vegetarian. My boyfriend Francis is not. He eats everything. And we were both just blown away by the culinary experience at the resort. And one of the things that I've shared is that, you know, being a vegetarian, you also sometimes feel like there's just like a little bit, you know, a section of the menu that's for vegan or vegetarian people. What was great about One and Only Mandarina is all of the restaurant venues had incredible vegan and vegetarian options, but they weren't kind of relegated to like a little corner of the menu. They were just part of the main attraction. So there was really fantastic entrees that just happened to be plant-based. And, you know, people who are not vegetarian would probably be just as likely to order them because they're incredible. Honestly, some of the best vegetarian dining I've encountered anywhere in the world, and living in Los Angeles, we have great options here, of course. But, you know, that's even more rare when you're traveling internationals, I think, depending on the destination, of course, to have those incredible, you know, vegetarian, vegan options that you may have at home, but are sometimes harder to find when you're traveling. And they were just absolutely phenomenal. I can't say enough about how
Joseph, was there a particular meal that stood out to you?
So this is actually good timing because the Jetty Beach Club, you know, is one of the beautiful dining venues. This is down on the beach here, obviously, and you have another one of the pools. As you can see from this photo, the beach is just spectacular. You feel almost like you're on a deserted island when you look around you because you don't see anything else. You know, you just have these completely untouched hillsides going into the ocean, and then this beautiful, very chic beach club. And so there's a grill here, and that was probably my very favorite meal, even though everything was incredible. Francis had the octopus, which he's never stopped talking about. And I know Jennifer had that too.
He's the reason why I ordered it.
Yeah, it's the best. It's amazing.
Yeah,
It's so different.
He was raving about that. And then I had quinoa tabbouleh, and it was like a tabbouleh made with quinoa with avocado and mango and some incredible spices. It was just one of the best plant-based dishes I've ever had in my entire life. In fact, I ordered it 2 days in a row because I liked it so much. Yeah, just the food was absolutely phenomenal. And this beach club is just gorgeous. It's like exactly what you want. You know, it's like the perfect balance of feeling secluded and in a really pristine environment, but at the same time, it just feels really, this was in the two words I kept overusing my entire stay was chic and magical. Everything either felt chic or magical or both. And that's how I describe the Jetty Beach Club. It's just kind of like chic and beautiful and, you know, complete luxury, but in this beautiful untouched environment. It's just incredible.
So help me get my bearings here. Where would your room be in relation to this photo?
So if you're looking at this view in this direction, our room would be up the hill behind me to the right. Okay. So, and to get around the resort, because it is a pretty expansive resort, lots of people walk everywhere and you can get great exercise. And in the distances, I think, and you guys can attest to this, Jennifer and Sam, that I think maybe when you get used to taking the little golf cart buggies all around, you think things are further than they are. But a lot of times people would walk and say, oh, that only took me 5 minutes. But you do you have buggies everywhere at the resort at your beck and call whenever you want someone to come pick you up and take you down to the beach club or vice versa. And they're very prompt and also it's just kind of a fun way to chat with some of the amazing staff at One&Only is when you're in the buggy with them, you get to kind of know them while they're driving you around and learn about where they're from and how excited they are. Obviously this is a brand new property, so everyone's really excited to be there and excited to share it with the first guests.
Yeah.
Gosh, listening to you, Joseph, makes me hungry all over again.
I know.
And touching on the sustainability story, speaking to the executive chef at the property, he shared with me that 100% of the protein that comes from the land and the sea comes from within Mexico. And a funny story, actually, when we were talking about the seafood, I asked him, where do you work with a specific fisherman? Where are we getting our seafood? He said it comes right from here. They fish from the jetty, and he said he calls it proximity fish. So that term has really stuck with me, proximity fish.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're very lucky. He's actually, Chef Olivier was actually Enrique Olvera's #2. So we brought him on property as our executive chef. So he's obviously got some fantastic training behind him, and he's really made these restaurants his own. And yeah, I agree. This is my other favorite place, definitely on the resort. This is a very special place too. For me, it has everything. It has a great restaurant, a pool, and a beach. And I'm like, what more could you want? So
yeah, it's hard to pick a favorite place here because every place is so
right.
so special and so beautiful. But just to give the viewers a little bit of a panorama here, this is looking off, when you have the jetty, beach club and pool behind you, this is kind of looking off in both directions, where you can see the really fabulous cabanas that they have there. And also, again, in this day and age, one of the things we're always thinking about and talking about is social distancing. And as you can see in these photos here, you can't get much more social distance than this. You have, when we were there, it was just enough people to feel like there was some great energy to the place, but you always felt like you had so much space around you. And I know that will never change with the design of this resort. There's just, it's a very beautiful, large property. So you're always going to have lots of social distance when you want it and lots of space. And of course, there's no better way to social distance than to be in a treehouse in the jungle. I mean, you really feel like no one is anywhere near you. It's just, you're just surrounded by nature.
And the water looks calm from these photos.
Yeah, it is. That's a huge selling point for us. It is a swimmable beach. Part of the reason for that is the jetty that is there, which actually sort of protects it almost into sort of a lagoon type effect. So
yeah,
it's
a little bit there for a visual.
Yeah. So as you can see on the photograph on the left is the beginning of the jetty. So that really does protect the ocean in this particular area. And yeah, we're very lucky. It's a beautiful, beautiful swimmable beach.
Which is not too common in this region, right?
It's not, absolutely. And the other interesting thing as well is that obviously in Mexico there are no private beaches, but quite honestly, unless you're staying at the resort or you're arriving by boat, there is no other access to that beach. So it is very, very private too, which is super nice.
I love that.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, Sam, that I didn't think about, because that's true. Because a lot of times when you're at a beach resort in Mexico, especially if you're more in the city in Puerto Vallarta or Nuevo Vallarta, you're sharing a beach that's just hotel, 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 so people are just walking up and down and, so you have a lot of traffic. Yeah. And with the beach here, you would have to either just arrive by your own private boat or be a very skilled trekker, because you're coming over rocks and mountains.
Yeah.
And, yeah. There's definitely not any foot traffic coming through there.
No.
So, talking about how there's this wonderful swimmable beach, which is so great for families visiting the resort. The kids club is absolutely incredible. And I just wanted to share this and this was one of the things I was trying to make sure I got a lot of photos of when I was there, because I think at first glance, we would always just kind of think of selling this as a romantic, couples anniversary honeymoon type destination, which of course it's perfect for those. But it really is fantastic for families as well. You have this really expansive kids club area. And I mean, I just think about when I was a kid, how I would have been absolutely obsessed with this, just all these like tree forts and bridges and
Kind of expect like the Lost Boys to show up. Here's Peter Pan coming out of the treehouse. Like this is amazing.
It does totally feel like that. Like I mean, like what kid doesn't dream of like playing in like a tree house in the jungle? It's so neat. And you can see a little bit of the indoor kids area here on the right. And then, it was hard. This is one of those areas that was hard to get a good photo of to really depict how expansive it is. And because, it's kind of all intertwined into the jungle. So it's hard to get kind of a big overview of it, but it's really, really cool. And when we were there, they were just kind of putting the finishing touches on the butterfly house. Can you guys talk a bit about that? Because I didn't get to see the finished product, but it looked so cool.
Yeah, so that actually opened officially just about a month ago. They released the first butterflies. So yeah, it's super exciting. So it's the butterfly farm, and also there's an insectarium, I think they call it too. So the whole idea with the Kids Only Club, I mean, it seriously makes me want to be a kid again, is not just to have fun, obviously, which they're going to do, but also some educational aspects to it as well, which is super nice. So and this is a close to a 50,000 square foot kids club. So this is not small.
Oh, geez.
And, it has an amphitheater, and so there's plenty to do. And obviously our staff are on hand to, really sort of cater to that. And they have a great program of events, which, changes, according to desires and needs, but they have a great program of events which they can put together for the kids.
Yeah, I would love to take my nieces here. They would just be in heaven.
I don't know, Joseph, you seem to be having a pretty good time when we were there on those tree houses.
I know. I was living letting my inner child out. It was really, really cool.
Are those like love sacks on the ground there?
Yeah.
Oh, so comfortable.
Yeah. They thought of everything. I mean, the attention to detail throughout the resort is incredible, but this was something I think kind of more unexpected for me, because I too, I think like a lot of people thought of this as more of a romantic destination. And so to see what incredible facilities they have for kids and for families, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in just a moment with some of the grand villas where you have multi-bedroom accommodations. It's really an incredible option for families.
I mean, this looks like out of Disneyland right here.
Yeah. And think about it too, if you're a family wanting to have that kind of tropical, exotic jungle ecotourism luxury experience, I think a lot of times people automatically just think of Costa Rica, and who wants to sit on a plane with their kids for 5 or 6 hours to get to Costa Rica when you can have, I think, an even better experience at One&Only Mandarina. And if you're coming from LA, it's less, it's like a 2.5 hour flight, which I think for a lot of parents is probably a no-brainer, just in the ease of getting
very doable.
Yeah.
And talking a little bit about adventure and playing in the jungle, we did a really cool activity at the resort, which is hiking to La Abuela, which is this incredible, how old is it? Is it 500, 600 years old?
500, yeah.
500-year-old tree on the left here.
Oh my gosh.
And it's just, pictures don't do it justice, obviously, is often the case with anything in nature. But we were talking yesterday when we were kind of going over everything, and one of the things I was saying is that looking at this photo of the tree La Abuela on the left, it just kind of really mentally takes me back there, and how peaceful it is there. When you're in the jungle and all you hear are really just the birds and the rustling of the leaves in the breeze and the way that the sun comes through the canopy. And it really is just unlike anything I've ever done before. And what was really fun for me is having my boyfriend Francis with me. He's a workaholic. I had to like kind of begrudgingly entice him into coming to Mexico because he never wants to take a day off. He's always so busy with work. And, he was just concerned about having good Wi-Fi and being able to work remotely. Sure. And I was really amazed at the transformation with him in just the few days that we were there. And, I got him to go hiking. He's such a city person. I've always been more of the nature person. He's a city boy. And the fact that I got him to go hiking in the jungle and he loved it. Like he was like a little kid and was just completely enamored with the experience. And so it was really nice for me to kind of see the transformation of him actually relaxing and not, having his laptop and his cell phone attached to him the whole time, and really kind of getting into, being present and enjoying the destination that we were in. And just seeing the photo of the tree really kind of takes me back to that feeling of serenity that you have. And just the way that One and Only does everything is, it's not just a hike. They always make it special. Like we had 2 biologists with us, and they were like picking up every little leaf of a plant and showing, look how this insect lives on this particular plant, and they make their home in the tree, and just really explaining kind of all the flora and the fauna of the destination, which we were totally geeking out to. And it was just, we were learning so much, and it was really a cool experience. And when I look at this photo, it just makes me smile because I think about what a fun day that was.
And it sounds like, I remember you coming back and telling me that, for Francis, it was like layers of stress just sort of like came down each day, and it was like, finally he was unwinding a little bit.
Yeah. Now we're constantly saying to each other, we need to go back to Mandarina. Whenever we're having like a stressful day, or one of us is feeling overwhelmed with work or something, that's kind of like our phrase now. It's like, I wish I was in Mandarina right now.
Just take yourself back to this tree.
Yeah, exactly. It's like my Zen, my internal Zen space that I go to now. I think about it, and it is, again, the word magical. So, I just hope that some of you who are watching this today get to travel here, and you have to do this hike because.
How far was it?
I think the hike was, Jennifer, you did this with us, right? It was about an hour or so, or was it?
It's about an hour, and it's it's not an easy hike. So we do recommend that you bring the proper shoes to do the hike. But once you get up and you get to the tree, that's the reward, is that you've got this gorgeous tree. You do some breathing exercises, and you take in the magic of this destination. But it's very rewarding. I kind of like thought about it because I'm going back to one of our properties in Africa in a few months, and I thought this is exactly what I need to get my training back in gear to do some trekking. But
was it uphill?
In the beginning it is.
Yeah.
In the beginning it is. We do recommend that you bring hiking. You can do it with traditional tennis shoes as well. But yeah, there are some elements to it that make it a little bit steep. So, but again, once you get to the end, it's a true reward.
And what does La Abuela mean? Like, how does that translate?
It's the grandfather, I believe.
Okay. Yeah. That's what I was wondering.
Yeah.
I think,
grandparents.
Grandmother.
Yeah.
Grandmother. Sorry. Yes.
It's okay.
One of the things that's funny is in the beginning of the hike, they pass out a bunch of equipment, and they were giving out walking sticks, and we were, of course, our first instinct was like, oh, we don't need a walking stick, and they're like, no, just hold on to it. And then of course, like 30 feet in, we're like, oh, this is really handy to have this.
Yes.
Like, I'm glad I have this.
You think you're all being kind of extra, and then you're like, oh, hey, this is nice.
No, it does come in handy. There's some certain areas you definitely want to have that hiking stick with you.
Yeah, and it's a perfect hike in my book because it was a little bit challenging, where it was just the right amount of challenge that it felt like a little bit of an adventure. It wasn't like so easy that you were bored. It was you felt like you did something. It had that like fun sense of accomplishment when you finished it. You're like, oh, I did it. We kind of like climbed this mountain, but at the same time, it's it's not scary. It's not anything to be afraid of. But it's just like the right amount of like fun and adventure to give you some fun memories and to look back on and be really glad that you did it. So now let's look at some of these incredible grand villas, and I'll defer, of course, to Sam and Jennifer to kind of go into a little bit more of the specifics. I was telling them as I was putting together my photos and going over everything, one of the tricky things is I was like, okay, now was this villa Jaguar or Tortuga? And because I just went crazy and took 8 million photos.
Those are the names of the different villas?
Yeah, so they all have names, and they're all different. So I'll just kind of show the visual, and then Sam and Jennifer, if you want to talk a little bit more about the specifics of some of the different multi-bedroom villas that you have at the resort, and I'll just show these beautiful photos while you guys talk about that.
Yeah, sure. So, one thing I should mention overall, the resort is just 105 villas in total. So most of those are exactly what Joseph stayed in. So they're the tree houses and the cliff villas. And then we also have a selection of villas which are 2-bedroom villas. So as we've already mentioned, ideal for families, multi-generational families. And they sort of start off at the Villa Banderas, which when we were building the resort became sort of known as the family villa. And Villa Banderas, we have several of those. They are all absolutely beautiful. They around 3,000 square feet with a king-size master bedroom, super living space, and then a queen double bedroom on the other side, 2 full bathrooms. So they're an ideal option for families, for people traveling with children, or even for 2 couples, or whatever combination that there is. Once we get past the Villa Banderas, we move into additionally larger villas called the Grand Villas. And these are all individual villas. So as we've already mentioned, they all have a certain name. Villa Kumuru, which is a beautiful 1-bedroom villa, actually, which is sort of our, again, when we were building, became known as the honeymoon villa. We have Villa Tortuga, Villa Jaguar, Villa Pacifico. So what you're looking at now, I believe these are Villa Tortuga and Villa Jaguar, which are 2 of our larger grand villas. And as you can see, I mean, just from a location standpoint, they all have just the most amazing backdrop with the ocean in front of them, and obviously the surrounding jungle. And they range from anything up to sort of 3,000 up to close to 5,000 square feet. So just depending on the type of villa, and all with private pools. There are larger pools, obviously, than we have in the tree houses and the cliff villas. These are actual, what I would call pure, true infinity pools, as opposed to a plunge pool. Great sort of living facilities with large terraces. Villa Jaguar has a super barbecue area, so that became known as the entertainment villa, if you like. So there, if you have a larger party and they like to entertain, or they're coming with friends, that's a super option. And we can certainly assist with providing assistance with a chef or a barbecue for those villas. And then Villa Pacifico, which is currently our top villa, is just a stunning villa with a massage room and a TV room, 2 swimming pools. So it really is just a spectacular villa. And then coming just a little bit later this year in May is actually our Villa One, which, if you're familiar with the brand on Villa One, is throughout One and Only, and that's going to be an 18,000 square foot 3-bedroom villa.
Oh my gosh.
So, yeah, I've not seen that personally myself. I'm heading down there next week, so I'm super excited to see it. We're doing a photo shoot of it very soon. But just a spectacular product, which will open up in May. So yeah, these villas are very, very special. Just as I mentioned, ideal for, if you really want, if you have a couple that wants to really to have an amazing experience, or you have families, multi-generational families, friends traveling together, these are an ideal option for that too.
Yeah, and what's so neat about them is they're all different, but they're all so beautiful. And again, every single one I walked into, you feel like you're in a photo shoot for Architectural Digest or Dwell magazine. I mean, just the furnishings, the finishes, everything is just so perfect and so well blended for the destination. It just really feels cohesive with the part of the world that you're in and the environment that you're in. And, I remember now, Sam, Villa Jaguar had that really cool outdoor kitchen, like you mentioned. Mm-hmm. And this photo here on the right, I forget which villa this was, but you had this beautiful chaise area, like this white portion that you see is like, an outdoor, a huge, almost mattress-sized cushion that you can just lay on next to the pool and the hot tub. And you had a fire pit. That's what that little cutout in the concrete is there. And I was just like, it's just incredible. You could lay there, or at night, be in the hot tub overlooking the ocean with your fire pit going. And it's just everything
amazing.
you could ever wish for in a beautiful tropical destination, you know, whether you're traveling with your family or whether you're on a more romantic type of getaway, it really is perfect for all of the above. And I feel bad. One of the things I wanted to talk a little bit more about too is just how incredible the staff is. You know, you're at this ultra luxury premier resort and everything about it is just, you know, incredibly beautiful and, you know, the best of everything. But the team at the resort, all of the staff at One and Only Mandarina is so incredibly warm and genuine and welcoming. And you just feel like as soon as you arrive there, you're really welcomed like family. And I feel like that's a cliche that you hear a lot in the industry, but it's very true here. I feel like everyone was just so genuine and warm and fun to talk to. And I was always curious. The question I always asked everyone that I met at the resort was, where do you live? Because you feel like you're so far away from any cities. I was like, where does everyone live? Where do you guys come from? You know, so it's just fun kind of hearing their stories and how excited they were to be working at this incredible, you know, new resort that was so different than anything else in the region. So I don't want to wrap things up without, you know, giving them a shout out. And, you know, they're really the biggest part of the experience. They're what make it, as I keep saying, magical, is the people there, you know, whether it's just the people that you meet when you're riding around in your buggy rides around the resort, or your butler for your room. Ours was fantastic. He was so cool. He gave us, before we left, his mother's recipe for mole.
Oh, that's amazing.
So personal.
Yeah, and I just, you know, it's so cheesy, but like even though I'm just showing my slides right now, when I'm talking about Mandarina, I'm always just like beaming because it was just such a great memory. Like when I think about it, it makes me so happy about the experiences that we had, the people that we met, just the whole feeling of the whole place. And before I wrap up completely, I just wanted to give a little shout out to the adorable town that's just next door to Mandarina, San Pancho, which I had never heard of before. And I'm sure a lot of people have probably been to the Puerto Vallarta area a million times, but never been up here. It's actually called San Francisco. So that was one of the things that confused me as I was looking on the map for San Pancho and I could never find it. It's because San Pancho is a nickname for San Francisco.
Okay.
So the actual name of the town is San Francisco, but everyone calls it San Pancho. And this is the closest small town to the resort. You also have Sayulita, which is a much more well-known, you know, kind of a really cool bohemian, fun Mexican beach town. San Pancho, I actually have not been to Sayulita, so I've only been to San Pancho, and people tell me that San Pancho is kind of like Sayulita maybe 10 or 15 years ago before it became a little bit more well-known. So I almost am apprehensive talking about San Pancho because I feel like it's one of those places. I told Francis, I'm like, I feel
You
like
don't want to give the secret away.
yeah, like I feel like I finally went to one of those places right before it became like the it place. So it's like you almost hate to talk about it, but you know, the main street is just lined with all these cute little restaurants like this one I took a photo of here. You know, really cool design, really fun, kind of chic boho look to it. We had dinner the last night with Jennifer and a few others on the beach. In this photo I took of the sunset, we literally ate out on the sand. And this was just a photo I took when I got up from the table as we're having dinner, as the sun was going down. And it's just
so this restaurant is sort of on the beach.
It's right on the sand. You're literally right there. And I think the beautiful thing about it is it was amazing how the locals come out to the sand and they're watching the sunset. It's like you're watching this picture show. And as soon as the sun set, everybody picks up and leaves. It was the most amazing view. And
shared that
thank
moment.
you for taking that picture right there, because that emulates it right there, that beautiful shot.
Yeah, and you're so right, Jennifer. It was like there was so many people out just watching the sunset. It was just like a really fun kind of jovial vibe, and there was people with their families and their dogs, and it was just everyone. It was probably, I think, especially with the year that we all had in 2020, it was one of those times too where it was the first time in a long time I felt like when I looked around, all I saw were people who were really, really happy. You know what I mean? Everyone was smiling and in a good mood and laughing and having a good time and watching the sunset. And then just like Jennifer said, as soon as the sunset went down, as soon as the sun went down, it was like 5 minutes later, we were like, where did everybody go? It was just like, there was only a few people around. It got so quiet so quickly. But yeah, so I definitely recommend it for those of you who are lucky enough to go to Mandarina. Definitely maybe plan one evening outside of the resort, check out Sound Poncho, check out Sayulita. Like I said, I didn't get to visit Sayulita personally, but I've heard that they also have great shopping there. And it's also a really cool little beach town. You know, it was one of those places that as soon as we left, I was like, how much do houses cost here? But then of course, you know, I was like, not quite in my budget, but you know, it was just fun because it was such a cool place that I had never heard of before. And I think a lot more people will be discovering it and talking about it now because you have this fabulous world-class resort just down the street. So
Totally.
That is my incredible one and only Mandarina experience. So I'll stop screen sharing here, but
so amazing.
That was fun for me. That was like a nice little break in my week. And
well, your enthusiasm's so genuine.
Yeah, it is.
It is. It's very infectious. Thank you so much for being such a brand ambassador for us both Joseph and Colter. Thank you so much.
Oh, it's our pleasure. It was, yeah, I genuinely love it. And anytime, you know, I've had the opportunity to talk about it since I've been back, I get very excited to talk about it because I do love it. And I can't say enough about it. So for our partners who are watching today, you know, if you have any questions for me about my experience, always feel free to reach out to me and I'm happy to talk about it and relive it.
We can tell.
So remind us just of the nuts and bolts of One and Only Mandarina, right? New property, and tell us about, just tell us a little bit about where it's located,
Sure.
how to get there, stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, so located, as we mentioned, on the Riviera Nayarit, in the town of sort of El Montion, which is about an hour and 15 minutes from Puerto Vallarta Airport. So, as Joseph alluded to, they're actually in the process of building a highway, which should hopefully be completed by the end of this year, which will cut that journey down by half. So, straight shot from the airport. If you're not too familiar, we are, you know, to put another reference point, 20 minutes north of Punta Mita, just gives you another reference point. So how do you get there? Really direct flights from any of the major cities in US, so LA, San Diego, San Francisco, Dallas, Houston, New York, and all of the major airlines, American, Delta, United, Alaska. You can connect through Mexico City if you wish. That's a fairly easy scenario as well. And, you know, when we do, we have guests who stay both in One and Only Pamir and One and Only Mandarina, and they can connect through Mexico City to either resort. So daily flights, multiple flights. So a very, very easy trip. And as we mentioned from LA, just a straight shot, just over 2.5 hours. So super quick flight down there. We do have transportation service, which we offer for an additional cost, which our reservations team can obviously assist with. And that's in luxury vehicles. They pick you up straight from the airport, take you straight to the hotel in a beautiful SUV. So that's a great way of arriving at the resort as well. So 105 rooms, we open November 1st, all individual. I think the most key takeaway for this is, you know, that this resort is not a traditional resort. Every single villa is a standalone, independent, secluded villa built into the side of the cliff, or as we mentioned, on stilts above the trees. So it really does give a very, very different feel. So, you know, you do feel that you're arriving in this beautiful sort of secluded jungle and taken to your very private villa, which has a private pool and all the things that you would expect. But at the same time, you know, there's a great vibe to the hotel within the different restaurants. We talked about Corral, which is our celebrity chef restaurant. We talked about the Jetty Beach Club, which is the one that's right on the beach. And then we also have another restaurant called Alma, which is our restaurant where you would go for breakfast in the morning, which again has an additional 2 swimming pools. So beautiful views over the ocean. It's open for lunch, it's open for dinner. And again, a great restaurant, great menu options there as well. So plenty of that options for food and beverage. And then, you know, we also, there's so much to talk about, and I know we're sort of cutting it close to the line, but you know, the what was not open, Joseph, when you were there, so you have to come back, is the Polo and Equestrian Center. So we have literally just opened our Polo and Equestrian Center. which is going to be a world-class center with international tournaments. The horses are there, the stables are there. It is the most magnificent feature in the property, with a full indoor and outdoor stadium and arena. I think there's probably over 20-25 stables. So, you don't have to be a polo rider to ride. Anyone can ride the horses. They do trial riding for beginners, for experienced. If you want to try your hand at polo, they'll be only too happy to give you pointers. But it is just such a unique and beautiful, beautiful part of the resort built into the flatlands. And then also opened just a couple of weeks ago was the Canalan Beach Club, which is an additional beach club built next to the resort on the flatlands. So again, that's accessible for our guests, and with a swimming pool on the beach and another restaurant option as well. So it's yeah, some things that are developing, and certainly gives you, Joseph, another reason to come back, and Colter, you more reasons to come. So
oh, definitely.
But yeah, so that's I think I've pretty much covered everything, but if let me know if you have any questions. I'm more than happy to answer them.
Oh, thank you. I mean, it was so fun just watching your experience, Joseph, and ladies, just learning about the property and the brand and the destination, and hearing just a little bit about your experience in the industry. This has just been a super fun call for me. I've lived vicariously through each of you in different ways.
We thank you both very much, and everybody who tunes into this too. We thank your partnership. We couldn't be as successful as we are without you guys. So we're hugely thankful, and we welcome feedback, comments, and we'll take very, very good care of your guests.
Thank you, guys. Was there anything else that we wanted to go over?
I could talk for 2 more hours, but I don't want to. I don't know if our viewers have that much time on their hands, so I'll wrap it up.
Awesome. Well, thank you all very much. I hope that you all have just a great day, and thanks for everybody for tuning in.
Thank you.
See you
so
next
much.
time.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.